Jessica was 23 years old when she realized she had nothing left. Not in a dramatic way, not with screaming or crying. It was a quiet kind of nothing, the kind that settles into your bones after too many closed doors. She had been sleeping in her car for 11 days. The back seat was full of clothes she couldn't sell. The glove box had a single credit card that didn't work anymore, and her wallet held $284. She didn't feel sad. She didn't feel angry. She just felt empty, like a glass that had been turned upside down and left in the sun. But that night, scrolling through her phone at 3 in the morning, she found something strange. An online listing, a flooded quarry, $250. No one wanted it. The description said toxic, abandoned, no refunds. Locals called it the devil's bathtub. Jessica stared at the screen for a long time. Then she smiled for the first time in weeks. When you have nothing left, even a flooded hall looks like a door. She bought it before she could change her mind. 3 days later, Jessica stood at the edge of the quarry. The drive had been long and quiet. The roads got smaller the closer she came. By the time she arrived, the sun was low and the air was cool. The water in front of her was dark green, almost black. It didn't move. It didn't ripple. It just sat there like a sleeping animal. No birds sang, no wind blew. Just silence. Heavy, patient silence. An old woman in a rusted pickup truck pulled up beside her. Her name was Dorothy. She had white hair and eyes that had seen too many years. "You the one who bought this place?" Dorothy asked. Jessica nodded. Dorothy looked at the water for a long time. Then she said, "My daddy worked here. He used to say the water remembers everything it takes." She didn't say goodbye. She just drove away. That night Jessica couldn't sleep. Not because she was scared, but because she felt something pulling her toward that dark water, like a whisper she couldn't hear, like a memory that wasn't hers. She had no diving license, no team, no safety net, just a cheap wetsuit from a pawn shop, an oxygen tank she rented with her last cash, and a flashlight duct taped to her wrist. She stood at the edge for 5 minutes, just breathing. Then she whispered, "I'm not leaving without something?" And she jumped. The cold hit her like a fist, but she kept going, deeper, slower. The light from above faded until there was only her small flashlight cutting through the dark. At 20 feet, shapes began to appear. Old mining carts, twisted pipes, a broken lantern that looked 100 years old. Then she saw it. Not a chest, a door. A metal hatch bolted shut, covered in algae and rust. Her heart pounded in her ears. She pulled the handle. It didn't move. She pulled again. Nothing. Then her oxygen gauge blinked red. She had to go up. But she knew she would come back. 2 days later, Jessica returned. This time she had a crowbar and a plan. The locals thought she was crazy. Earl, a man with a gray beard and kind eyes, said, "You're gonna die in that black water." Jessica smiled. "Then at least I won't die bored." She dove again. The hatch was still there, waiting. She wedged the crowbar into the seal and pushed with everything she had. Metal groaned. Bubbles exploded around her like tiny screams. Then the hatch swung open. Inside was a small room, completely dry. A wooden desk, a wooden chair, and on the desk, a leather-bound journal. Jessica grabbed it with shaking hands. She didn't open it underwater. She kicked upward, breaking the surface with a gasp. Back on solid ground, she sat on the rocks, water dripping from her hair, and opened the journal. The pages were yellow, but the ink was still clear. The first entry was dated 1972. The handwriting was neat, old-fashioned. My name is Eleanor Reyes. This quarry was my father's dream. Clean water for the town, a place where children could swim and families could rest. But they shut us down. They said we didn't have the permits. That was a lie. A developer wanted the land. They buried our work. Literally. Jessica's hands trembled. She turned the page. If you find this, finish what we started. The water isn't poison. It's a gift. Pump it. Filter it. Restore it. Don't let them win. Tears rolled down Jessica's face. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone had been here before her. Someone who believed. And they had left her a map. Inside the back cover of the journal was a folded blueprint. Jessica spread it out on the ground. It showed the quarry's underground springs, 3 natural freshwater channels, each one blocked by a concrete plug. They didn't ruin the water, Jessica whispered to the empty quarry. They just turned it off. She spent the next week studying the map. No money, no help, just stubborn hope. Sometimes Earl brought her sandwiches. "You're still here?" he asked one afternoon. Jessica looked up from the blueprint. Her eyes were tired but bright. "I'm just getting started," she said. That night she slept better than she had in months. For the first time, she wasn't running from something. She was running toward something. Jessica borrowed a sledgehammer from Dorothy. The old woman didn't ask questions. She just handed it over and said, "Don't die." Jessica dove down to the first concrete plug. It took 4 dives over 2 days. Her muscles burned. Her lungs ached. But on the 4th dive, the plug cracked. The moment it broke, the water shuddered. Mud and silt churned like a storm. Then slowly, very slowly, the water began to clear. She did the 2nd plug, then the 3rd. Each time, the quarry breathed a little more. The black water turned green, then blue. One morning, Jessica saw a fish, then another. Then plants began to grow along the edges. The silence that had been so heavy before was now soft, peaceful. The quarry was waking up. 6 months later, Jessica stood at the edge of the quarry again. The water was crystal clear. You could see all the way to the bottom. Kids were swimming near the shore. Old Dorothy sat in a lawn chair with a lemonade in her hand. Earl was teaching a teenager how to fish. A small wooden sign at the entrance read, "Reyes Sanctuary, restored by hope." Jessica didn't become rich. She didn't become famous. But she became something better. She became home. Not just for herself, for everyone who had nowhere else to go. That quiet, forgotten hole in the ground had become a place of healing. And so had she. Jessica often sat by the water at sunset. She would watch the light turn gold and then orange and then pink. And she would remember the girl who had slept in her car with $284. That girl had been so afraid, so lost, so empty. But emptiness, she learned, is not the end. Emptiness is space. Space for something new, something better. She didn't find treasure, she found purpose. And sometimes purpose is worth more than gold. If this story brought you peace tonight, close your eyes and breathe. Remember that your lowest moment might just be the beginning of your greatest transformation. Good night.